Welcome to Astro Bros. Tonight we have a special guest, Tim Cahill. Tim, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tim Cahill. I'm a Pisces, and I'm here to shoot the shit with these guys. I'm reaching across the political divide here. We have had our disagreements over the last few months, especially, but we all came out of it as friends somehow. So it should be a a good talk. And we're
Fuck
going to
yeah.
talk about. I think we should talk about. I think we should talk about the Saturn Neptune shit that's
Fuck
going
yeah.
on.
I'm down. That
Yeah,
sounds
I'm down.
great. Welcome, Tim. That sounds great. And yeah, we will definitely do that. That sounds a great idea. That's very much the
So
most important transit. Go ahead.
yeah, so I would say that the if you look at the last time, specifically pertaining to the United States, so if you look at what was going on the last time Saturn and Neptune were conjoined, it was like the end of the Cold War. So it was sort of America's greatest W in terms of its power as a country. So then before that one in the US at least, we had it was right around the time of Stalin's death. So Eisenhower was the president at the time of the previous Saturn Neptune conjunction. So we had a bunch of civil rights stuff going on back then, just like we do now. Um, and in the previous one before that, it was right around World War One, right around when Wilson was president. So there's a lot of stuff about like isolationism there too. And I
Yep.
forgot what was going on in the United States during the previous one before that, but it was the early 1880s, I believe. It was right around when Alexander the Third of Russia got assassinated. That was the big event for Russia because Saturn Neptune is very much associated with Russia, more so than any other country. So, but because Russia and the United States have uh, a history together, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term, they're sort of
We have a
tied to us.
pretty long history, yeah. Well,
Now,
1880 to 1890, if that was one of them, that's pretty much
Yeah,
post Civil War, right? And it's
yeah,
very gilded. It was a very rich age. It wasn't the Gilded Age, but it was like a very rich age. It was when um, workers' rights were starting to be fought for. It wasn't like quite up to
yes,
snuff yet, but that's when some of the bigger labor movement things were happening. All the other times you've talked about have tended to be times of conservative empowerment. Like the 50s was like a conservative empowerment
yes,
time. Um, the end of the Cold War, that's during Bush, like late Reagan, early Bush. That was
yeah,
a time of like conservatism in the US. So it seems to be linked with probably here conservatism, but in Russia, I think it's been more of a time of crisis so
regime
far.
change.
Yeah.
now
Russia
I'm
always
curious.
has a regime change during Saturn and Neptune conjunctions, so Putin
Okay,
is fucked.
Well, but ideally, that's the balance between liberalism and conservatism and healthy, is that you're going to essentially that the progressives push out and do new concepts, new ideas, try new things, and as those fail, you have more conservative mentality of balance the budget and just get things done and try to do things effectively and straightforward. And in a healthy society, you're going to have both these perspectives balancing each other.
yeah. But where do you get the liberalism part? Do you think Neptune is liberalism? I'm just
Me,
curious. Yeah.
I think
I,
Neptune
I don't know
is.
what the planets mean.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Tim,
Neptune is
Tim,
So
delusion to a certain extent.
I would say that Neptune represents in this case overarching cultural narratives.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So Neptune
for
and
sure.
Aries, for example, Austin Coppock described it as the everyone's a soldier transit, which is why I refer to this
It's
as the age of paladins, because
uh
a bunch of people just got into magic during Saturn and Pisces, or during Neptune and Pisces, and during Saturn and Pisces for sure. Um, but so now the magicians are going to be putting their magic to work in other ways, in more destructive ways.
yeah, I would say that there's a war of belief that's associated generally with Neptune in Aries transits. Tends to be a time where people get
Yes.
tired of the old ways and push forward new
Mm-hmm.
ways. So it tends to be a time where even if things were at an uneasy peace or an uneasy truce, Neptune and
Mm-hmm.
Aries tends to push people to the edge where they need to settle it, right? And whether that ends in blood or not, like depends kind of on the era and the time,
Yeah.
who it is. Um, but it tends to coincide with wars. I mean, it has in U.S. history. Neptune and Aries coincided with the Civil War. I believe was the last time it
Yeah.
was
Mm-hmm.
in
And Tim was
operant.
working his way back to that, which I feel
I
like he got
think
interrupted, but yeah, exactly.
it's connected to the Hundred Years' War. I think,
And
if
the
I
cold
remember,
and the
Yeah,
Cold
yeah. I
War.
think I remember that from the podcast.
yeah.
Um,
So there's tons of connections to wars of belief. I think that this particular one is going to be a lot about the Abrahamic religions. And I've talked
yes.
about it a couple times. It feels like they all have prophecies that are kind of mutually exclusive. And there are sects of each of the religious beliefs that are trying to push those prophecies to fruition. Like you have
Well,
the Jewish
yeah.
people getting a red heifer with no blemish, like to be sacrificed, like in fucking Israel, which is something that they need for their Moshiach to come.
Oh yeah.
Um, you have
Mm,
like the Christian coalition, like Christian Zionists that kind of
yep.
want something to happen in Israel so that the big war between Gog and Magog can happen in Israel. And I guess the
Yep.
synagogue of Satan can be stamped out. I don't know exactly how this all works. And then I assume that Islam also has prophecies, but they're probably different between Sunni and Shia. So I'm not sure exactly how those go.
Yes. Yes. There's a much bigger divide among Muslims than there is among the other two Abrahamic faiths. Much bigger divide among Muslims today. Because if you look at the timeline of Christianity compared to Islam, this is about Islam's crusades.
Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, I mean it's interesting. I feel like the basic energy of the Saturn Neptune conjunction, it's going to be at 0 degrees Aries. I think
Yes.
it's linked to holy war, but it's also linked to like times of great sadness. So I think that we'll end up seeing people like we'll end up seeing kind of a return to religion, but there's also going to be a big disillusionment with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Also, especially certain sects of religion, not sects like
Yes.
P and V,
Yeah.
but sex as in
Yeah. Yeah.
SECTS, Um,
Why
I
are
Yes.
they
think that
less
that's likely.
exclusive?
That's my guess for how this energy is going to play out.
No, of course.
Yeah. I think we're definitely. I think it's very likely that we'll see a regional war in the Middle East.
There is already one, because you've got Syria.
But like a larger one
Yeah, it is
involving
likely.
like involving more um a lot more Iran is the biggest geopolitical wild card right
I think Turkey is actually. I think Iran is a little bit, but I think Turkey is actually the wild card because Turkey is the most
now.
likely to actually
Yeah,
tell Israel to fuck
use a
itself
nuke.
of all the countries that have the power to tell Israel to fuck itself. Turkey has an actual army. They're part of
They have nukes.
NATO. They can't be fucked with that easily. Um, And if they end up moving, that fucks up all of NATO, and NATO's already in the process of being fucked up. So that might be the end
Yeah,
of NATO. We might see the end of NATO over the course of this Saturn Neptune conjunction because the
yeah.
center
Which
can't hold.
honestly, good riddance at this point. But it didn't have to be this messy of a collapse.
Well,
Now,
yeah. I mean,
okay.
there's some things is that like there's some things that you if you plan a withdrawal, you can actually do it somewhat strategically. The problem is like
Yeah,
you can't really do a controlled collapse. At some point, you just have to let it go and just let everything hit the fucking ground, or you have to blow it up. You know, I mean, you could do it safely. You can get
mm,
everybody out, metaphorically speaking, but it's still just one of those things. Is that like it's like at a certain point, destruction is just destruction. You know, if that's what's required. You know, and you can not destroy
yes,
people
yes,
and mitigate those things. You know, which we should do, but you know, at some point, you know, you just sometimes you just need to start all over. You know,
yeah.
and
I
with some
agree. I agree.
I think that there is definitely like some kind of reset happening in international
Yes,
relations. There's definitely new
yes.
alliances that are starting to form. My general feeling, just based on what I've been seeing, is that we're going back to a multipolar world where there's going to be major
Hmm.
powers. It's going to be China, Russia to a certain extent, depending on how everything goes, the US to a certain extent. Probably Germany is going to end up stepping up again.
I would
And
argue
you'll see,
the EU in general, but go ahead.
I think so, but if you think about the EU and who funds it,
Yep.
you know how a lot of that shit is funded off the back of the American taxpayers. A lot of the EU shit is funded off the back of the German taxpayers.
Well, yeah, and
Um,
that's what Brexit was hugely about too, because they were like, "Hey, we're playing a disproportional share, and we're like one of the smallest countries," you know. Um, and so anyway, it makes a lot of sense in that way when you're paying a
The problem
disproportional
with
share.
Brexit was Ireland.
Ireland
Oh,
is basically just the problem in general, I think.
I mean, I'm used to being the problem. I'm Irish, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
tarty tar
Well, I mean,
tar.
the problem is the border is how it's just weird to have the EU on to have one part of an island be in a certain geopolitical alliance, and then the other part of that same island is not. It's kind of weird.
It is true. I mean,
Welcome to Earth.
Ireland is in a really weird spot in general right now.
Borneo moment.
What? I don't know what their moment is, but so
I said
Ireland was
Borneo
never a
moment.
conquering country. It was always like a
Yeah,
conquered country, right? So
yeah.
it's not a country that like colonized or like fucked with anybody, but it's been part of this whole EU project. And a lot of like
Yeah.
nativists and more nationalistic people in Ireland are kind of getting tired of like what's happening. And they have every
Hmm.
reason to be because you can't be like, oh, we're only coming because you conquered us before, because that just shit didn't happen with Ireland, you know? So they're just kind of caught up in like a bigger Western issue, um,
Yes.
which they really didn't have a part in creating, but it is creating a lot of problems for their people. So it's like, it's interesting to
Ironically,
see. Um,
ironically, Ireland has more money per capita than the UK now.
yeah. Those
That's not
potatoes
surprising because they bought into a bunch of they became like a banking center, um
and a tech
and a
center too. Yeah,
corporate like loophole center. So they brought
yeah,
in a lot of corporations by giving
yeah.
low tax
Yeah, yeah.
to the
For tech,
corporations. So they brought in a bunch of people that didn't help the average person there. So they might have good per capita, but it's like probably
temporary.
based on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
not necessarily good metrics. Do you know what I'm saying?
Great wealth inequality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great wealth inequality in Ireland, I'm
yeah.
sure.
But
Which is sad.
now,
Um,
can I, okay?
but
Let me just jump in. I'm curious to go
Okay,
back
do it.
to you. You happened to mention, Tim, that the Saturn Neptune coincides with Russia a lot. And I'm curious, I want to know more about that because like I think that's interesting and I think you're right, but I want to like talk more about that because it seems to be like these milestones of like the Saturn Neptune conjunction seem to coincide with like, I mean, it was the start of the Cold War, the end of the Cold War, among other things. And how does that relate? So
Yeah.
it's not just Russia. How does it relate to other countries and other times? And so just, yeah, I want to push on that more. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Okay. So as for Russia, so the last time that Saturn and Neptune were in the same sign was around 1990,
Yeah.
which was
Uranus was there
when
too at the
Boris
time.
Yeltsin coup
It's triple
happened.
conjunction.
Boris Yeltsin's coup happened, and that was a very, very insane coup. He literally dissolved the Russian parliament. Like, imagine it would have been like if Trump just comes in there and says, Congress, you're all fired.
Yeah.
That's what Yeltsin did. Like,
Yeah.
it was pretty nuts. It was pretty nuts. And then Russia went through its whole decade of suffering in the 90s that led to Putin. And then Putin sort of
Which was a
improved
lot.
things for a
The
while,
West
and then
really.
he got them. And
Can
then
I
he got them
interject for
back
just 1 second?
into an insane war. Yeah, sure.
The West really fucked that up. When the Soviet Union fell, we could have actually been more friendly to them. But a lot of our corporations, a lot of our business people felt like it would be better to like make them to rub their face in the dirt a little bit.
Yep.
And they did. And there's a lot of resentment in Russia about that. That's all I wanted to say. Back to you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yep.
No, yeah.
So before that Yeltsin coup, we had in around 1953, 1954, it was either, I think it was 53 when Stalin died. And that led to led to the Khrushchev administration in the USSR, which was ironically, things would have been more peaceful with Stalin than they were with Khrushchev. I would argue because Stalin was more willing to work with the U.S. after they helped him win a war. Khrushchev hated Stalin for some reason and ended up sort of distancing himself more from the U.S. after the Korean War ended. So Russia sort of stayed out of the Korean War for the most part, and China was the one that got directly involved in the Korean War. So Russia might have actually been on a path to peace with us in the timeline in which Stalin didn't die at that point. So it's a very interesting what if thought experiment about like what if Stalin hadn't died of a stroke in his library from sheer exhaustion, because
there'd probably be less Russians.
More Russians.
There'd probably be less Russians.
Oh,
Let's
less.
be honest. It's Stalin. There'd be less Russians.
Well,
okay,
he did kill a lot of them.
He did kill a lot of them. He did. Yes.
Thank you for admitting it. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
He wasn't perfect. I'll just say that.
Yeah, he definitely did a lot of stupid things, especially with Ukraine.
Sure. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Yeah, never mind. Got it.
Hello to Mars.
So
yeah.
I'm not a tanky. Let me just throw that out.
All right, fair. Then never mind. I won't even jump into that. Yep. Continue, please.
Okay,
Sorry.
so before that, there was a Saturn Neptune conjunction, I believe, in 1914, which
that's right around the fall
year.
of the dude. Yeah. Isn't that when the Russian Revolution happened?
Nicholas Romanov. Yeah.
Yep. The Romanov.
The First World War and the Russian Revolution happened. So we had another regime change example. And the one before that was the assassination of Alexander III Romanov, and that led to a bunch of pogroms.
Huh. Pogroms against who?
Russia, Jews.
Oh,
Russians
yeah.
always blamed the Jews for all their problems. They were doing it before the Germans did. Every time Russia suffered, they killed a bunch of Jews and expected things to get better, and then they never did. So they killed more
Yeah.
Jews, and it was like a feedback loop.
Yep.
Well, it's happened
So you're saying
many
that
times.
killing Jews does not solve your problems?
It's
Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
It's wild
Okay,
that
just checking.
both the communist Russia and Germany both went about it the same way, though. I mean, I don't know what their
Yeah, well, Russia was before. Well, Russia's anti-Semitism was worse before the USSR. Actually,
yeah.
um,
No, that's true. That's
they
true.
actually had and that was partly because of the
Marx?
influence of the Ukrainians. Actually, because in Ukraine in the early 1920s, they had their own like massive civil war. And there was this guy named Nestor Makhno who took over like a large portion of Ukraine with his anarchist rebels against the Tsar basically. And so they carved out this part of Ukraine that they called Makhnovshchina, and they basically went to work. They killed everyone who was an anti-Semite. They just went through and basically genocided the Ukrainian anti-Semite. Like
Yeah.
it was a mass execution scheme against the against the original Ukrainian Nazis. Now we're hearing all about these Ukrainian Nazis, and it turned out that they were actually I looked into it. There were actually more Nazis in Ukraine in the early 20s than there were in Germany.
Yeah.
The movement sort of moved from Russia to Germany, like gradually eastward or westward. It's kind of interesting how political movements uh, often the place where they started geographically is not the place that they're most associated with. And I think that's interesting.
I think pugnacious nationalism was a response to communism to a certain extent in Europe, at least, right?
Yes,
So, yeah,
yes,
and there were street gangs on both sides in most countries in Europe. And some countries, the nationalist street gangs became more powerful, and some countries, the communist street gangs were more powerful. And that kind of led up to a lot of the problems that we had over the course of the 20th century in Europe, I would say. Like the
yep.
20th century in Europe was really about two different
They
views of the world,
yep,
coming into conflict.
and they had in Europe throughout the Cold War, there was a lot of crazy shit going on in Italy.
Yeah.
Because you have to think Italy was also a loser. It was also a major loser in the 40s. In fact, they had a whole mess of problems where they became like two different countries at one point. One part of Italy was controlled by the Nazis, and the other was controlled by the people who overthrew Mussolini. So it was kind of crazy how Italy got divided up during the war in almost a reverse France, where in France it was um it was the liberals who got ousted, and in Italy it was the fascists who got ousted. So that's an interesting duality
Yeah.
there.
And in
I'd
Spain, the
say.
fascists won.
Well, okay. So maybe
Yes.
it doesn't matter the party. Maybe what do you think? Like, if there's something else deeper than just the party on the surface, because it seems like both parties were acting in similar ways. Like, if we're talking about like astrology and the archetypes going on, like, what do you think?
Yes.
Like what is the underlying thing? Like, it doesn't matter the surface level. The surface level is the party. What is
Well,
the
it's
underlying
Yeah.
energy behind it?
authoritarianism, I think, in general from the left and the
yes.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was sort of an authoritarian civil war, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Both wanted control. So it basically got to the point where both sides felt like there was no way to negotiate anymore
Yeah.
in general between these two completely, seemingly, absolutely different ideologies, right?
Yeah.
But they
Yes.
both needed force to maintain their power, right? So they
Yeah.
had to be authoritarian.
Mhm.
And it was partially because they were so
Yep.
fixed positions that were at loggerheads with each other that it created a lot of the
Yes.
conflict.
Yes, exactly. And I would say that so Nick, were you asking like what do you think the astrological underpinnings of these ideologies are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what you're
Exactly.
getting at?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say that that when it comes to because if you look at the chart, you can look at the chart of the founding of Nazi Germany, for example. It was
Okay.
very Uranian. It was
Yeah.
very Uranian.
Yes.
I believe it had Uranus
Fascism is
on
very
it was either
Uranian,
Uranus,
for sure.
it was either on the it was either on the midheaven or the ascendant. I don't remember which one it was on, but the Nazi Germany chart is pretty interesting if you want to look into um the timeline of the war. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in the inception chart.
According
Okay,
to
is this the
astro.com,
founding of the party?
Nazi Germany, January 30th,
Yep,
1933. I mean, if this is the chart we're talking
11
about,
a yep,
okay.
Scroll down.
that was when they took power.
Oh, fuck.
So
There we go. Let's zoom in.
Okay, where's
so
Can
it
you
was
explain
Hold
some
on.
of this for the
we will.
astrologically
Yes, we will.
uninitiated?
yeah, we will. Okay,
Uh
so no, wait, never mind. So Uranus was in Aries in the 12th house. So that sort of indicates that the change that happened had a lot of big moving parts in the hidden enemies area.
yeah.
A lot of
There's a
Nazi Germany was surrounded by hidden enemies.
Oh, yeah.
Was one thing that was a key component of it because it turned out that people were actually out to get them. Like they got bombed and stuff, and so it sort of aligns with like the assassination of Heydrich, for example, would be an example of a Uranian event in Nazi German history
Oh, yeah.
because he
No,
he didn't know who that guy was.
yeah.
What's interesting to me is like the Jupiter Mars conjunction in Virgo. And there's
Yes, that is interesting.
so many aspects that are about like the purification. It's about
Yeah.
purity.
But Pluto opposite Venus square to Uranus is interesting to me too. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Ooh,
It's an
Venus and
yeah,
interesting
Pluto.
chart.
Yeah.
We should
ooh,
look more into this and like make some videos about it, I think.
Yeah. No, but
Venus right
yeah.
on the
Actually,
MC.
it's a very interesting. Venus
yeah.
on the midheaven in the ninth
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So art
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all
Well, it was
square.
like their art form. Like I don't, if you look into like Hitler he was really into like old school like Roman architecture. And
Yes,
Venus and the Capricorn like makes sense with that on the MC. It's like bringing back the
yeah,
fabled past, right? It's like connected with
yeah,
the old style because he felt like most art was degenerate. So it's like,
yes.
yeah, it makes sense as a guiding
And he
principle.
had Pluto. They had
And you got to
Pluto
remember
on
he's
the
an artist at
IC.
first too, as the
They
leader.
had Pluto on the IC.
Yeah.
That
And then the
that
Saturn
should
Sun
have been a sign.
conjunction, better world. So they were fighting what they thought was for a better world. I mean, we obviously disagree with that now, but they were fighting for what they thought was the new world, right?
Yep.
The new era.
Wow, That's
Yeah.
ironic. Nazi Germany also has a combust Saturn.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I'd say the things that are really stand out, the outer planets are all playing a big role in this chart.
Yes.
And they're all at kind of power points, except for Uranus, but it's like it could be that drive for conquest was their undoing, right?
Yes.
Because they pushed too
Yes.
hard for conquest. So it's like the moon and Uranus being in the 12th house in Aries is, if they had played their
Yeah.
cards differently and fought differently and not tried to take as much land early, they might not have gotten the resistance that they got, right? It's
Yeah.
it's an interesting chart, man. Like I've never seen this
It,
before, and it speaks pretty clearly, I'd say.
I remember hearing from Heather Leah at one point that if you save the charts of Russian leaders to Astrodine, wacky stuff happens. So
Huh.
I at one point had Lenin, Stalin, and Putin all saved to my Astrodine because I was like, okay, so what's the worst that could happen? I die.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Russia
So
sent some people
I
to
was
your door.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one time I actually tried to, and I don't know if I succeeded because I don't know exactly who I was talking to in the astral, but I tried to arrange a meeting with Vladimir Putin in the astral realm early on in the war because wait. I'll try to negotiate this, you know? Because I was like, I don't hate this guy. And then eventually because I was originally I was actually a fascist in 2022, believe it or not. Like I was a straight up Russian fascist in 2022. Like I was very much a hardline supporter of the war, and I believed that it was the right thing to do. And what made me think that was that it was literally just that Putin was standing up to the United States. And I
Yeah.
didn't see that as anything other than unilaterally a good thing. But then when I started seeing footage of Bakhmut, I was like, what the fuck is this? You are not just over there killing Nazis. It's just a fucking graveyard. That's pointless. Like, I remember hearing about Mariupol, for example. Mariupol was where most of the Nazis were. So most of the Nazis died fighting in the Battle of Mariupol early on. Like most
Yeah.
of the worst Ukrainians died very early on in the war.
That's not the Wagner Group. What is their name? What's the name of the Ukrainian
Azov Battalion.
Azov Battalion? That's it. Yeah. Wagner Group was like kind of the more Russian mercenary.
Wagner Group is the Russian Blackwater, essentially.
Yeah, Blackwater. Yeah, whatever they're called, Academy now. I think Blackwater's changed its name like 3 times because they're tired of people researching them, I guess.
United Fruit Company moment.
We're United Fruit Company, man.
But
Well, it's hard to be a clandestine organization when everybody knows who you are.
True.
That's true.
But okay, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick. Go.
Well, no, this is really good stuff, and I just think like it's interesting to hear you have these more nuanced perspectives on stuff because it's like, yeah, it's like Putin. I'm not a fucking Putin fucking dick sucker. That's not my point. It's more. It's he was pushing against what I mean. One perspective is he was pushing against the kind of the Western, what the corruption that the Western, like the Europe and America was going through past decade plus, which is a real thing. Yes. He was pushing back against that. Yeah, then things kind of obviously aren't as cut and dry, But like, there's a interesting documentary. It was made by the BBC out of all places. It was from like 2012, but it was called Putin, Russia, and the West. And it was basically it's a it's BBC, so grain of salt. But it was explaining how he was pushing back against kind of the Western influence and the Western kind of
Yeah,
domination.
Encroachment.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about it for real
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah, yeah. And what's funny is now we're like over a decade out of that documentary, but the idea is we see this. I mean, we can go back to Ukraine with the whole like 2020 or 2014, the whole Victoria Nuland and then the overthrow of the leader. I forget
Fuck
his
the
name.
EU.
Yeah, exactly. And then
She said.
how exactly and how Western influence has tried to constantly push on Russia. Why now? So again, why now? So like the Cold War ended at the last Saturn Neptune conjunction. We're now attempting as a society. I mean, you can disagree if you want, but we're almost like trying to push the Russia's the evil bad man. We need to create like Europe is mobilizing and like trying to still support Ukraine, which is like it's all in my opinion, it's like a way to channel this aggression towards Russia to justify a war with them. But like it's just interesting how like we're at a new cycle, a new Saturn. Going back to that whole thing is the Saturn Neptune cycle. It's like we're at a new cycle, or about to be, and there's this talk of like trying to like keep mobilizing and justifying a war against them. And so I don't think it's as cut and dry as like Putin bad, Putin do bad things. We that's the West are the good guys pushing back against them. I think there's far more nuance to it, but like, and not to like be like, oh, there's nuance as a cop out, but I mean, it's far more complicated than just Putin bad guy.
It is.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I agree. It's more complicated than that. And the other issue that people got to consider is how many worse people than Putin there are in the Russian government.
Yeah.
Because Putin is a moderate compared to a lot of Russians.
Yeah. Putin has been in power for a really long time, and this is like a problem that Russia has because they haven't really had very much challenge to his power. If and when he dies, he's going to die, right? So at some point, if and when he dies, maybe it's going to be during the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, might be around that.
I would not be surprised if he died this year.
Who is going to take power after him? That's the real question. Is there anybody waiting in the wings? I don't think it's going to be you, Troy. I'm not sure, but I don't think you're next in line.
Troy, you're next in line.
I got nothing going on.
I think the thing that's going to happen is when Putin dies, it's going to be like the Ottomans whenever the sultans died. They're just going to have a fucking bloodbath to decide which guy gets to be in charge next. Like, that's the only way I can see this going after Putin dies is the Russian Civil War.
What? You don't think that they're just going to have a fair and free election?
No. Of course.
Of course they are. Of course
that's not how
are.
Russia works, though. Russia,
let's spread some democracy over there.
I
got an ointment cream for that. Just spread it around.
As much as we might want it to be different, Russia tends to be under strong leaders. They tend to want that on some level. Otherwise, it wouldn't keep happening, right?
Hence
they want the strong man. And they've always had it. And they've very rarely not had it. Every time that they haven't had it, like Gorbachev, for example, has been a time of suffering for the Russian people, Although you could say that all seasons are suffering for the Russian people because it seems like that is their lot in life. Unfortunately.
Seems like
it is very cold.
I think unfortunately
the nipples are always up.
I think unfortunately the issue is that Russia is not sustainable as a single country.
I think that's what the West wants you to believe.
It's too big of a swath of land.
It is very wide.
But isn't that the whole point? Why they were trying to get a port so that they could have year-round trade, so that they could take all their oil, and that way that they're not a seasonal country locked in.
Yeah. A lot of shit having to do with the Black Sea.
So, I mean, as far as I understand, that basically this last entire war for this land was to secure that port to make it so that they're actually functional as a self-sustained country. Excuse me.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of their geopolitical dominance when they lost the USSR because they lost so much of their rump states, you know. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so it is interesting. I still see Russia as a world power. I can't not see that. But the only thing that I think is a really damaging thing for Russia is they have a very low population for their land size. And they do not have a population that's trying to have a lot of kids because uh, it's just not something that they seem to be caring about. And in fact, Europe is not really having a lot of kids, you know, native Europeans are not having a lot of kids. There
yep.
is a real decline in new nativities, you know? And Russia needs to honestly not be at war for a little while, build up their infrastructure, build up their
Hmm.
ability to take care of their people so that they can have a boom and replenish their people. I think for all the space that they have, the amount of people that they have is fucking crazy low. And a lot of their space is
Yeah,
not Siberia, you know, it's like forested creepy land, but it's still land, you know, just saying. And then it kind of goes down into the
well,
steppes, you know, like there's aspects of it that are in the steppes
yeah,
of Asia.
yeah,
Um, they have a lot of ability to grow food. They have a lot of ability to grow. They have a lot of natural resources. And naturally, the West kind of wants access to that. And they want to get
yeah,
Russia out of the way, you know, to gain access to
yeah.
that.
It's
Because,
the same. It's the same as it's just the soft power version of Lebensraum.
yeah, for sure. But I don't think Russia is the type. I think that they're a bitter, they're the fight to the bitter end kind of people. Um,
Yes.
and they'll drink about it, but they'll keep fighting. So I don't think it's a very smart idea to try to back them into a corner.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
think that our goal as the West was to bleed them and try to do it without hurting ourselves that much. We just spend the money that we make out of thin air anyway
But it
and
seems,
supply a
yeah,
bunch of weapons.
but it seems all Biden's
And
efforts in that direction have basically backfired and just essentially trained them to be more self-sustainable.
Well, the way that we've
it's
used
because of
Ukraine
BRICS.
as a country has been very bad. I
Not good.
mean,
Not good.
Ukraine is a very corrupt country. It has been for a really long time.
Pretty
Even
much,
like
yeah,
old
since its
articles are
inception.
the most corrupt
Mhm.
country in Europe is what it used to always be talked about until we were like rah rah Ukraine. Um, we've got lots of like special laboratories, like lots of bullshit there. There's a lot of graft and corruption there. And it's been a place that the West has laundered a lot of their money, you know? And we don't want to lose that.
Mhm.
We don't want to lose access to it. Um, so it's interesting. There's no easy answer, I don't
My
think, when it comes to
my
Ukraine.
personal my personal opinion when it comes to Ukraine is that Makhno was right.
Who's
Ukraine
that?
only works. Makhno was the Ukrainian anarchist revolutionary he had the Ukrainian Free Territory. He had his own army of anarchist rebels, the Black Army, and they took over a swath of territory in Ukraine and essentially started doing communism there on their own, instead without the permission of the Bolsheviks. So Trotsky didn't like that. So Trotsky convinced Lenin that the that Makhno and his Black Army were the enemies of the Soviets when they had no interest in being their enemies. Trotsky was just a rank imperialist who wanted every single revolution to be under his control.
Trotsky was a bitch.
He really was. I wish I could
He
resurrect him
was.
to ice pick him
Trotsky was
again.
a giant fucking traitor, bitch. But you know, didn't he die in Mexico?
He got ice
Didn't
picked.
he end up in Mexico and died there?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Someone showed up with an ice pick.
Good. I mean, he was one of my least favorite of the Russian revolutionaries. I think I liked him when I was younger. But I stopped liking
he
him.
was
I
a
did
pick
like
me.
Lenin. I thought Lenin was cool. You know,
The
because
problem with Lenin is the problem with Lenin was he was too hardened by the war. So he didn't really know how to lead people without an iron fist.
I feel like Stalin was more known for being like the absolute dickhead of Russian history.
Actually, Lenin was more brutal than Stalin in his time. Like Lenin would do things like say, if you don't have these grains to this area at this particular time, you will be shot. He would have people executed for not fulfilling grain quotas because, unfortunately, a lot of them were very corrupt. A lot
Yeah.
of the people with the grain were very corrupt, and they were starving the people. Unfortunately, so
Yeah.
it was a no-win situation for the incoming communist uh, administration. It was not a very they inherited a mess, as we say in America.
Like the one thing that you can say about Russia is they went from like a peasant agrarian culture to a technologically advanced culture in one of the quickest times that's ever been done.
The only time it's been quicker is China.
Yeah, that's true. China was faster. I mean, I have problems with all of it, you know. Like I'm not that I don't like
Yeah,
super authoritarians, you know. Like I'm more
yeah.
of a
Libras were
libertarian than
okay
an
with
authoritarian.
everything. They're
What?
just
I'm
happy-go-lucky capybaras.
I'm just uh I'm just a friendly neighborhood accelerationist.
That's nice. It's good to be on the train, isn't it? Who knows where it's fucking going, but it's nice to be
Yeah,
on the train. Yeah.
see my personal position at this point is that things are so bad that we need to just hit the gas pedal in one direction and see where it goes.
Thelma and
Yeah.
Louise it.
Yeah.
Not
Honestly,
necessarily off the cliff.
yeah.
I mean, we could just drive really well around the
No,
corners.
but I do get the idea of like pushing things to the extreme and the negatives as well, and then letting unfortunately humanity as a whole is pretty complacent until things are so fucked that you have like until they're pushed to the point
Yeah,
where that's the problem is like we're
9/11, for example.
yeah
Well, the
Like, did you
problem
say women,
is
for
Like
example?
or
New
9/11.
Oh,
Yorkers
okay.
never worked harder than they did on 9/11, for
Yeah,
example.
exactly. Like
well,
you have to push people.
the
Go
thing
ahead.
is it's for people to come to a conclusion. It's just straight out of science. It's very simple when you're doing data. You either need a very large data set or you need very loud data. So essentially is right now is there's people are overstimulated, so
Yeah.
people can't get a proper data set. So large data
Yes,
set isn't working right now, so people need a louder data set to be able to discern truth from what's going on with all the bullshit going on. And
I agree.
from where we're coming from, which is kind of goes along with the accelerationist perspective, is that hey, at least things are changing now, and with because it's like we don't get to have a when you're doing scientific studies and you don't get to have a control, you have to make sure that you because you don't get to isolate variables, so you just have to switch certain variables out when you
Mhm.
can, so that you can hopefully try to triangulate
Yes.
variables, you know. And so with everything changing
Mhm.
right now and all this crazy stuff going on, for better or for worse, it's going to
Yeah.
provide new context for that overstimulation of data so that hopefully people are going to wake up to more of the lies and be able to spot and be able to filter out more of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
That'll be nice
I
to see
think
if it happens.
I think that the thing is people think like, it's just a rise in one direction. I think the truth is that the Overton window has expanded in all directions over the last
Yeah.
10
Yes.
years. There is a
That's because
far
we've had
greater
narrative
range.
collapse. The narrative
Well,
There's
control
a
of the media
far,
is gone.
yeah, yeah,
well, but it's
yeah. There's
we have
no,
chat rooms. We have places like ASO where we can go and have a whole community around astrology, and we're not even the only community online of astrology. You know what I'm saying? Like
We're
there's
the
yeah,
these
best, but yeah.
niches that allow
we're the
people to be
best
able
though.
to
Yeah,
continue those narratives, and because the thing is that like things don't grow alone, and especially when you're trying to grow ideas,
yeah,
you know, it's like it's very few people can sit there and just write out their ideology and critique it amongst themselves. Most people have to think in groups and get ideas off people. Most of the time people are inspired by other people and motivated by other people because we're social creatures.
Most people's ideology is unconscious. It's not even something that they
my
came to themselves.
my
Very somatic, yeah.
my my mistake that I often make is I assume that everyone is as self-aware as I am.
Well, no, well that's the biggest
Like,
mistake that everybody makes is everybody else assumes that they are like them.
No,
And
but
the thing is
yeah.
no, and it's because it's a natural projection because as we start to have theory of mind of being like, hey, you know what, other people think like, have similarities to me, but it's like that next step is realizing that actually nobody actually thinks like you do. You have certain base level overlap, but everybody always has their
yeah,
own filter and their own context in which it's interpreted into.
Yeah. But
exactly.
but
Like two people also could come to the same conclusion for completely different reasons. For example, a lot of the reason that I came to the conclusions that I did is that I grew up with money. So I know how the sausage is made. So I decided at some point that I was going to act against my own interests because I was like, this is messed up that I'm benefiting from this.
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
the thing is
I
that
mean,
it's just karmically
Wait,
speaking is we don't get to control the hand we're dealt. And the thing is
Yeah,
that like in this reality, we're not even all playing the same game. You know, we're
right.
not even, and I
we
might be
shouldn't
playing
be,
a, I'm
actually.
playing a card game. You're playing a
I
video game,
agree.
and we all have different objectives, and we're all going to different places, and it's really hard because it's just like, and that's the one biggest thing I have about like equity in the sense of equal outcome is because it's just never going to happen because that's basically saying I am stronger than the universe and all of nature and going to bend it to my will. And it's just like it's never going to happen. But what we can
I'm
do
not a
is the best to try to help people from where they're at. And and it's something I like to say is you need to meet people where they're at in relationships, especially in community. And the thing is that like because not everybody's at the same place, and
true.
if you're going to meet someone
Right, you got to
maybe
meet
fifty
people where they
fifty or
are.
60-40, it has to be somewhere in between that space, which means finding common ground, communicating, and
Yeah.
also being open to that other, potentially part of them that doesn't connect with you. Because it's like if you have two magnets, one side's going to connect and the other side's not going to connect. And that's not a bad side. Doesn't mean the other side that you don't connect with isn't a bad part of it. That's just not what you're drawn to.
Hmm.
yeah.
Nick has tried to talk
Yeah,
like
that's
four
true.
times. Nick has tried to talk 4 times and he's a Libra moon, so he's not going to push himself forward. So I'm just going to say,
Thank you.
Nick, tell us what you need to say.
No, I appreciate that, Mike. No, it's good. At this point, I mean, thank you, by the way. And yes, I am a Libra moon, and yes, that is correct. And God damn it. No,
Stop making
but I
this about
also
me. I'm trying to make it about other people. I'm a
exactly
leader.
like I also like want to let our the guests speak and then build off of that conversation. So I'm not trying to like jump in as much this time as usual. I mean, I at this point, my points are past, so I'm not trying to like rehash and bring up stuff that we were talking about like five
Yeah,
minutes
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
But I think
If you feel it, say it.
no, and I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate it, Mike, but I also sometimes it's just we'll just let it go, and I'll bring up if it's important. But no, it's just yeah, no, keep going. Like, I appreciate it. I'll jump in when I need to. But again, like I said, I want to let our guest speak the most and address the things that he's saying, because that's the point of this right now. But yeah, yeah, keep going. We're good.
Okay, so another thing I was thinking about talking about was the when it comes to the Uranus and Gemini transit.
Ah,
Okay. Okay.
AI, technology,
Yep,
communication,
crazy technological advances, and
telepathy. I think
yeah,
it's going to be the big thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Roy
I
left his
interrupt
thing.
because I have an Aries
so I
rising,
was
so I'm
just
allowed
so
to.
I was
do
just
it. Do
so,
it. Do it.
so I was just thinking about how so we know that every time Uranus is in Gemini, some crazy stuff happens in the U.S.
Wait,
like
time out.
the World
Time
War
out.
II,
When was the
Civil
last time?
War.
Let's go back. When was the last time?
World War II?
Okay. Got
Last
it.
time Uranus was in Gemini was World War II. Before that, the Civil
Okay.
War. Before that, the Revolution. So we are at
Perfect.
a
Yes.
crossroads of a
Perfect.
Civil War, a Revolution, and a World War.
Yeah.
I just, for
And that's
context for the
which-
viewers, I appreciate it.
That's
Thank
with
you.
which conjunction again?
It's
That's
Uranus.
just Uranus being in Gemini.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal for the United States,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
This particular one seems like an indicator for total bedlam, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. Like I'm thinking that we're going to have a hybrid war. Like a lot of people are going to get cyber attacks.
Yeah.
For example, like that's going to be the biggest, uh, especially if we mess with Iran. It's going to be a big cyber attack thing. People will actually die because of cyber attacks here. Unfortunately, if we
I
mess with
think
that.
Iran has like a average IQ of like 110 or something like that. It's like they're a very smart
Yeah,
country.
they're smart people. We're messing
And
with a very smart country.
yeah, the Persians, man, they're not they're not people to be taken lightly. But I don't even think that the Persians, like their people, are not that different than us. You know, it's like before the revolution, which we helped to make happen. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah,
Before the Iranian Revolution, um, we had way more in common culturally than we do now, because they were like Muslim, but they weren't like the hardcore Muslims at that time, right? They were like there still
yeah,
is Muslim countries that, especially the stands, that are not like fucking Wahhabi style. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There
yeah,
are like plenty of Muslims that are pretty chill people, but after the
yeah,
revolution, Iran became much less chill Muslims because they were led by a religious group that was very conservative, right? So before then,
yeah,
there were women in bikinis in fucking Iran, you know? Now they get fucking killed for that kind of shit, you know? It's like there's been a shift in Iran, but that doesn't change the fact that their people are still smart, you know? Um,
yeah.
although I would say religious programming does take down their efficacy a little bit.
Yes, yes,
Because that's just the way it goes. I'm gonna get one more
yeah.
beer. I'll
And
be right back.
all right.
Don't worry, keep talking.
So,
It's all
Yeah.
good.
Here
so
Keep
now.
okay,
going. Keep going.
so the thing about Iran that we should know, that everyone should know, since there's solid chance. And I'm not even saying like I think this war. I mean, it would have happened under Harris too. Like, the U.S. just wants a war with Iran for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think Americans should know what we're getting ourselves into there, because Iran is not like Iraq or Afghanistan, where they do not have the means to attack us on our own soil. They will attack us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's been people who've been wanting war with Iran for a long time, and
Yeah.
part of it is like Christian sects and like what we were saying earlier that basically like they want to push their narrative for the end times and they want to be right, but they also like want to go to heaven and don't want to die and they want to be in the rapture, you know? It's like they want it to fucking happen, so they're trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
part of that is that they just want to force war in that area because that's how they see it. And that's part of the reason why they've had that foreign policy in that area and been funding terrorism in the Middle East
Yep.
for our, our entire lives.
Yeah. But
Yep.
let me just jump in. I don't think that we're going to go to war with Iran. Number one, I think that this is hangover going back to the whole what is it, 7 countries in 5 years or whatever bullshit, that thing from early 2000s. It was like Syria, Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, or not Lebanon,
Libya.
Libya. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about though. I forget the guy's name who said it, but it was like all of these Muslim countries that were like, we're gonna go to war with all, or we're gonna basically regime change all of them or take over all of them. Yeah, Libya, Syria,
Yeah.
Iraq, Iran. I could pull up the clip. I'll pull it up and edit it in later. But yeah, exactly. And like Iran is the final because they are the most powerful in that way, and they are the most intelligent in that way. And not to belittle the other countries, but like they do have the most influence and power. And I don't think that that's where we're at. I mean, especially with, and again, with Trump in power now, the focus is now on Asia. Like we're not focused on. I mean, with Biden, we were focused on Russia. That was like the big thing, and then before that, and even like we were focused on the Middle East. I don't think that there's going to be a war with the Middle East. Maybe there will be a proxy war based because of Israel's desire
Israel
to.
versus
Yeah,
Iran.
okay.
Israel
Okay.
and Iran are
Okay.
almost certainly going to go to war.
Okay. That I do agree with, and that's a whole different animal. So yeah, it's more complicated than what I'm saying. But I'm saying like, as far as the United States getting, like, our focus is on Asia. We're focused on China.
Yeah.
Again, not that we want to get into a war with them, but that is our. If there's a big boogeyman from the United States right now, it would be China.
For sure.
It's not Russia. It's not the Middle East anymore.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like hangover things from like the past 2 decades.
Yeah, that
plus.
actually started in Obama, was when the pivot to China happened.
Yeah.
Obama.
I kept
Obama
saying
is
hangover. I
actually the
thought you were
reason-
talking about the movie. I was like,
No.
wait, they
Part
were
three.
going to move. They were going to different countries in
Believe
that
it or
movie. I
not.
don't remember that one.
No, yeah.
I think if the Trump administration tries to get us into Iran,
I won't.
there will be a civil war. Like
In this country?
and it will be for sure.
Well,
I don't think
okay.
there's any
his
chance
entire
that we're going to send our
base was
kids off to
anti-war.
fight Iran for Israel. It's just not going to happen.
No,
and he's
I
going to
agree.
lose all of his base if he tries to do it. Like
No.
95% of it.
Well,
Like
and
there will still be boomers that are retarded. Yes, of course, as there is.
That's like
but the
boomer
boomers are not going to
retarded.
war.
Yeah, same word. Yeah.
Well, and most of the war hawks have
So
already left the party.
Yes. Bolton is out. Almost all of them are out.
Unfortunately, the guy they put in charge of the DOD is very neocon.
Is he?
Yeah,
Is that
unfortunately.
Wait, who's the?
Wait, you're talking about Pete Hegseth?
Thank you. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
No,
Yep.
he's not a neocon, man. I mean, no. I disagree.
I mean, he literally
Make your
said
cases.
he wants to kill all Muslims.
I really, really fucking doubt that, man. You would have to
really
prove
doubt that.
statement. I don't believe it.
No, like
Make
he
your
got
cases.
drunk on Fox News and screamed, "Kill all Muslims!" Like it was
Okay.
It was the whole thing.
I have to see it. Prove it.
He's very.
I'm looking
he's
it
very
up.
hawkish. Is all I will say.
I'm not saying any person that's head of the DOD is going to be a little bit hawkish,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I think
he's got like
I think
25 years
more
military
hawkish.
experience.
I'm certain he did not say we're going to kill all Muslims. I'm certain he didn't say that.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't say that when he was in office. He said it as like an outburst when he was drunk, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like putting
Is that like
an
sources
alcoholic in
close
charge of the
to him
DOD.
said that? I mean, it depends on
No,
like
no, no.
how it's sourced,
Okay,
right?
time out, time out. I'm reading about it right now. It's just for context because it is vague. Pete Hegseth, former Fox News host who is currently a president-elect Donald Trump's nominee to lead the DOD, once drunkenly shouted "Kill all Muslims" in the middle of a bar while serving as the president of a veterans group. There's no recording of it. We're basing it off of people saying that he said it.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys to it's up
essentially a
to the
rumor.
viewer to decide what they believe. Yeah.
It's
It's-
like one of
Yeah,
those things
yeah,
where I don't really trust like
yeah.
sources say unless
Yeah,
there's
that's
proof of it anymore.
that is
because the government, our media lies to us all the time, right? Like all the time, and there's been so
All the
much
time.
proof
Yeah.
of them lying to us.
So
So I don't know.
no,
Maybe,
I mean
but
to shout
at the
it
very
drunkenly
least,
in a
that
bar.
story that you told me has some basis. So I will give you some points for like
No,
the
but
story having some basis, but I don't necessarily.
though
put
my
faith in
issue is it happened according to this. It happened. He was drunk in a bar. He shouted it at a bar. This is witnesses accounts of it. There's no recording of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We can't prove yes or no. Again, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm not saying he did.
Yeah, we
I feel
can't
like
prove it either way. You're right.
exactly.
You're right.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I'm just thinking that it's like, and I don't really want to say more about this particular subject for
Yeah, okay.
reasons, but
Okay, fair.
so I'm gonna pivot. So
You
I'm
do
gonna
you.
pivot
Nice
to
pivot.
talking about, instead of that whole mess. How about we talk about,
Saturn and
because I don't want to
Neptune,
say
or
I don't want to say something that could get any of us in trouble here.
Oh. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
well, don't get too drunk and yell
so
that
I'm
out.
gonna-
You know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay on my best behavior as I promised, because I don't want us
You're
getting
good.
the heat on us. Anyway. So
You're doing good.
anyway,
You're doing great.
I was also thinking about how, for example, we've got all this stuff going on in Pisces right now, Pisces and
Yeah.
Aries,
Yeah.
and third deacon Pisces and first deacon Aries are both Martian.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Because it's the
interesting.
Scorpio
Oh,
deacon for Pisces, and it's
nice.
it's the Aries deacon for Aries, right? So it's like,
Damn.
I
I
mean,
say
anytime
Decan,
a
but you guys
cycle
do
is
you.
ending, there's going to be conflict.
What's a deacon?
It's
Decan.
I'm not using the trad deacons. I use the Chaldean deacons, which follows the Chaldean order of planets.
Let's go.
And
Okay.
it just so happens that in Pisces and Aries, across both of the systems, they both have a Martian deacon at the end of at the end of Pisces and the start of Aries, regardless of which deacon system you use. There's
Well, the
Martian
deacons are
deacon.
based on, so the Pisces deacons are based on the ruling planet of all the water signs, right?
You guys keep saying Deacon. I pronounce it Decan. Am I wrong?
I don't know. Who cares?
Okay, so
I don't know.
Probably we're wrong. I don't know.
no, it's I. You're good. Fuck it. All right, let's go. Keep going. Sorry. I love when
I still
I'm
don't
just-
know how
I'm
to
just
say
thinking
niece's name. Is it niece or is it Nith?
it's Nice. It's Nice.
Niece. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about how that being ruled by Mars and Cancer as the deacon ruler. I can't help but think that is playing a role in all of this chaos that's going on right now. We can't really separate this from the elephant in the room right now in astrology,
Of
which is
nationalism?
Mars and Cancer.
Well, Mars and
the
Cancer
Mars and
feels very
Cancer-
nationalistic to me, right? Cancer is generally nationalistic. It's more
Yes.
tribal. It's more sectarian. It's more like me and mine, right? Like my
Yeah, yeah.
people. So I think
Yeah.
that Mars and Cancer is probably like more pugnacious national energy. And with Jupiter moving into Pisces too.
Yeah.
And we've had a long period of Mars in Cancer too. It's been there for a long fucking time, guys. I'm so ready for
and
Mars
now
to get into Leo. I'm so sick of
I am
Mars in Cancer.
so ready for Mars to go into Leo. Oh my God.
Right?
I just want my Mars return to happen. I want that 15-degree Leo Mars.
You have 15-degree Leo Mars?
Yeah.
I square you a lot, man. This is why we probably don't get along sometimes. Not that we don't all the time, but I would say that it's probably my moon Uranus conjunction at about 15 degrees Scorpio that like pisses off your Mars and Leo. That's probably where it comes from.
Oh, your
And
sun is opposite
what
my, or your
degrees-
moon, or your Mars is opposite my sun. That's wild. Yeah.
I
Okay.
often
degree is
find if
your-
I'm like in conflict with somebody, I can just look at the charts and I go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," and that makes it a lot easier, you know.
What degree?
Yeah.
So your moon is, what did you say? What degree?
My
of Scorpio?
moon is 14, I think, and my Uranus is 15 degrees.
So we've got a lunar
Scorpio?
opposition too within Orc.
Yeah.
My moon's 22 Taurus.
I think my Venus is the real opposition to your moon because my Venus is 19 degrees.
Your
Scorpio.
Your Venus is right on my ascendant.
Oh,
Interesting. Your moon, by the way, Tim, is conjunct like to the degree or off one by Amber's Venus. So that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is you can get along with pretty much anybody if you're willing to give them. There are points of contact that you're going to have with almost anybody where you're going to be able to like make some kind of, we have something in common.
Yeah.
I'm sure that given the right context, I could have a reasonable conversation with Donald Trump.
Hey.
You heard it here
this
first,
is cool.
Guys. He could actually talk to Donald.
Yeah.
I think he'd be fun to talk to. He's a Gemini, dude. He's fun.
Tim wants to talk to Donald Trump.
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah.
Given the right context.
I think he'd be fun to talk to, honestly.
He would be.
As
Tim wants to
almost
hear
every story
what-
that you hear about him
He wants
talking
to
to
hear
like
Trump's
normal
voice.
people, they like
That's all
it.
I heard.
Yeah. No. All I heard is Tim supports Donald Trump. That's what I heard.
He wants to be personally addressed by
Motherfucker.
Trump. That's all I heard.
Wah, 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 wah.
I actually did back in 2015 I actually did my top two choices in 2015 were Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump.
I mean, those.
I voted for Bernie.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, and then he's gonna send you a thank you note after. Dear Tim, thank you for the pleasant conversation. I will take your things into consideration. Best wishes with all of the stars and stuff.
All the stars.
Donald
I
Trump.
think my personal opinion is that Donald Trump is a magician. He is a word magician. He understands the power of suggestion. He understands the power of words.
Mhm.
And he talks at the level he does, not because he's at that level, but because he's trying to set narratives and set messaging. And he believes in the power of that to get him wherever he wants.
He certainly knows frame
because
control.
it has.
Excellently.
Yeah, it has. He has been president twice. He's been attacked from all sides in many ways, and maybe even attacked by himself. He is a Gemini. Part of him is attacking himself at all times, you know.
He shoots himself in the foot, but not in the ear.
Nice. That was a good joke, man. I love it.
That was a good one. For a lot of reasons. That was a really good joke.
That literally and metaphorically, yeah.
Here's what I'll say about Trump. He is an accelerationist candidate.
Yeah.
And he is very Uranian. He has like a Sun Uranus North Node conjunction in the 10th house.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you just look at his chart, you can kind of understand like his nature. He's not very, I think his Saturn Venus conjunction and Cancer is the thing that makes him kind of wonky. I think that is in the 11th. if I remember right.
So I decided that I am no longer making election predictions because of last year. You want to know why? Because because I was like I don't want people to freak out because I was like yeah, he's gonna win. Jupiter in the house of his son. That's the
Jupiter
tiebreaker.
was right on his sun during the election, like right
Yeah,
there
yeah, yeah. Um,
in the 10th.
so I was sort of so I was sort of um so I was sort of thinking like, well, I don't want to encourage doomerism
You know,
among the
in your
people I
people.
talk to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to encourage doomerism. So I was like, yeah, it looks like it's not. I would always be like, yeah, I think she can win, but then in the back of my head, I was like, nah, she's not gonna win.
She was never going to win, man, but they did run a better campaign too. I mean, she chose like Epstein Island, like fucking celebrities to come and hang out with her for like $1 million a pop. Like her campaign strategy was terrible. You have to
Her
admit that, right?
campaign, yes, her campaign strategy was terrible. I hate
Absolutely
her
Well,
for
garbage.
absolute
it's part of the
garbage
thing is,
campaign.
well, how she got the
Worse than
nomination was
Clinton's.
essentially through palace intrigue or whatever. So the thing is that like they essentially like went behind Biden's back from everything we can tell and like took it from
Yep.
him. And so Biden was
So
pissed about it, which is stupid because he's an old man and needed to give it up anyway, but still the thing is what it did, it divided a lot of the loyalties. So you had a lot of reluctant democratic people. So basically it split their own energies, like, a couple months before the election. So it was like it was stupid on that level. And then on top of it, it sounded that like Kamala was actually making a lot of her decisions herself. And no offense, that's just she's I haven't seen many of her talents of anything. So
No, no offense taken. I hate.
I heard she's good at
I meant to
that.
her, but
uh,
I I'm just saying as far as I can tell, she's
I
just that
mean,
high
that's one of
school
her.
mean girl. She knows how she's
Oh
generally
yeah.
good if she's in her own crowd to say the things that her own crowd wants to hear. But the thing is, as
Yep.
soon as you get her, so basically, it's like so she's good at consolidating the base, and that's kind of what she did. But all of the independents and all the swing voters were completely turned off because all the stuff she was doing was essentially tribal in signaling. All she was doing is saying the talking points, and all that does is work for the people who were already going to vote for her
Already on
anyway.
her side. Yeah, she didn't
I
bring
would
many
I
new
would
people to the
argue
table.
I would actually argue that from the perspective of her target audience, here's the reason she lost. Gaza. She could not have if she had been able to get Biden's left coalition back together, she would have won.
Well,
Yeah,
But
but
because of Gaza, she wasn't able to get the far left to support her at all,
because of Gaza.
which loses a lot of her momentum because the far leftists would have been the ones who were doing the loudest campaigning for her
well,
because
but
they're the
here's the thing
loudest
is,
voices. So when you lose the loudest voices in your potential coalition, you're shooting yourself in the foot. But so in a way, Biden screwed her up more than anyone else.
Yeah,
yeah,
Biden fucked up.
no,
I
you're
mean, Biden didn't want to give up power, but also the far left tends to be bratty subs in most elections. So
yep,
They weren't this time.
they'll be like, "Oh, I hate you guys. You're the worst. I'm not a Democrat, but
yep.
I've got to support you. Otherwise, it's the other guy, you know." And it's like it's the bratty sub aspect of the left, you know. And it's like it's fine, you know. I get it.
No, you're
Oh,
making
we're
half
not
the
doing.
point I was going to make
Oh,
right there. What's
oh,
the
we're not
it's the
doing
thing
that
is
again.
that well, I've seen this in many times in my personal life with people, and that's the whole thing why elections are really interesting points personally for people because it has to. you're forced to make a choice between two people essentially. All the other choices don't really matter. You're
That's true.
essentially, and
You
so
can have a protest vote, but that's all it is.
yeah, and
Yep.
don't get me wrong, and I'm saying there's power in that, but it's just not the power we're talking about right now.
A
And so
part
when
of me, when I was at the ballot
But-
box, a part of me really wanted to vote for Kennedy just for the fuck of it.
I
Hey,
get it.
okay, hey, I
liked
dig that.
Kennedy.
I
If
dig
he had
it.
been
Yeah, I'm like,
a independent, he would have been a hard choice for me not to vote for.
yeah.
And in fact, once he joined the coalition, I was like, yeah, okay, all right, let's do it.
Well,
Fuck it.
similar here. But the thing
Well,
is the way that our election cycles
I
work.
just meant I was going to
is-
do it ironically, but yeah.
I would have done it like naturally, and
I would have
with a
done
full
it
heart.
supportedly, like,
there was a
cool,
part-
this
there was
guy's
a- 'cause-
third party.
There was
But-
a part of me that wanted to vote for. And I had 4 candidates on my ballot: Kamala, Trump, the Libertarian guy, and Kennedy. So
Okay.
what was annoying me was all these leftists were like, "You got to vote for PSL or the Greens, bro," and I'm like, "Where? They're not on the ballot."
Right?
That's
Yeah.
wild, yeah.
I would have voted for Kanye, but he wasn't on the ballot this year. So
Oh,
sad he
dude,
didn't get his
yes.
shit together.
Holy shit.
He talked too much shit about the Jews before
Yeah.
he went to the thing. It was sad.
But
It's
that
sad.
would be wild. Can you imagine President Kanye? Let's just
President
all.
Kanye would be the most.
Oh my
The
god.
most accelerationist. So, the most accelerationist candidate in the history of all time would be Kanye West. If you're actually a accelerationist, that would have been the one.
It would have been
Absolute
wild.
shit
Yeah.
show. It would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, he would just be like,
Amazing.
"What the
America
fuck am I
would
doing
not
here?"
be there
Yeah.
by the end of it,
Yeah.
but it would have been fun.
No, it would have
you know?
tanked the presidency immediately. It would have been hilarious.
It would have been the party. It would have been the funniest
Yeah.
thing we've ever seen in our lives.
I mean, I don't expect like any of my leaders to be good, so at least they might as well be funny. Like at least it might be.
Yeah.
At least let's have some entertainment value. If I know they're gonna fuck me over, I don't know.
My problem at this point is that like I've seen Trump's shit for years, and it's
Yeah.
like the same every time. He needs new material, in my opinion.
That's honestly, I agree with that. And as much as
No
I
Agenda
am,
talks about that a lot.
yeah,
But the old man is repeating
same
himself.
yeah,
What?
it's the same shit. And at this point, yeah, it's like, okay, great, cool. What's funny is Trump in like 2016, 2017 was more of like the Uranus side of things, where it was like, this is new, this is different, this is radical, this is changing shit. Now he's becoming the Saturn side of shit, where it's like, okay, this is just establishing bullshit. And it's like, what is going to be the next change? What is going to be like the next thing that like is different? Because he is becoming the status quo. And like, and I'm not saying that like he's great. I'm saying like most people are like, okay, yeah, like he had the popular vote, so that means he's the status quo.
They're all like, fuck it up, son. They want him to fuck it up a little bit,
Yeah.
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 The
But
American people are like, yes, do something.
What is the next thing though? Exactly. Like, what is the next step after Trump? Because he's not going to be around for that much longer. I mean, let's be real. He's fucking old. He's not obviously going to run any vice president. Like if JD Vance runs next time, or like fucking whoever else in his cabinet runs, they're not going to have the Trump appeal. So they're not going to be able to like have yeah. Who's the next person to push things? Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's why they're banking on Elon so much.
Oh,
banking on who?
Oh no! Oh god! Elon Musk. Elon Musk.
No, fuck
banking
Elon.
on Elon. I think they're banking on Elon to take over.
Oh no! Oh no!
But
I don't
he
think so.
can't. He's not born in this country. Like
people.
Neither was Obama.
He doesn't care though. He doesn't. But the thing is, Elon doesn't care. Elon doesn't care about the norms and laws of this country. He's not even from it. He's from apartheid South Africa.
I
Yeah.
think Elon is like a wild card, and he's the least trustable person for me
Oh yeah.
in the administration, to be honest. Like, to be
Yeah,
honest,
I would say,
I think of all
yeah,
the
I
people
would
that I'm
say,
like, who might be
yeah,
the Antichrist? I'm like, maybe it's him. Maybe,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying
I
this for
actually,
sure. I'm just
yeah,
saying, like, there's something about him that is a little bit off. He's like an autistic turbosperg, Like he is
Hmm.
yep.
I mean,
He
he's
has the same kind of autism that I do, and that's part of the reason he drives me nuts because
he,
I know exactly what he's doing because
he
I
really
wanted to
wants
do
to
the
go to
same
Mars,
thing.
okay? Let's just like send
I
him to
wanted to make
Mars.
myself immortal 10 years ago. I
uh
wanted to make myself immortal. I was one of those people. The reason that I was going to college was that I was terrified of death and I wanted to go as far into science as possible and be able to indefinitely extend my life. That was my entire goal, was at one point to just make myself immortal. And then I got
You're
really
just
depressed.
yeah, because you shouldn't want to do that. You should just be like, okay, at some point Tim Cahill will be dead. It's fine.
Yes,
At
I
some point
accepted
Mike
that.
Schultz will be dead. This is only the shell. And as soon as you
Yeah,
realize that this is only the shell, you don't have to worry about it as much. You have to realize that
yeah,
you can't take it with you. The only thing that I like aspects of Elon. He's doing like some good things, but it's all for his ambition. He wants to like go to Mars. If we can figure out a way to get Elon to Mars, we don't have to worry about him anymore. He can just have
yeah,
Mars.
exactly,
you can
Fucking get to
have
exactly.
Mars. Go to
yeah.
Mars.
Get to
Go to
Mars.
Mars.
Go to Mars. We'll devote the whole federal budget to getting you to Mars. Just leave us
Yeah.
alone.
Just leave us the fuck alone. Stop trying to live forever. Like I get it. I
Yeah,
understand
right.
like
Like,
the fear about
like
Elon,
that's
but I don't think like the cohort of turbo spurgs that he put in to like check over the government is necessarily bad. I think that like we should be figuring out where all the money is going, why it's going in those directions. We should figure that out. That's good.
the problem is he's done stuff like he's done some really careless stuff, like taking orphans' social security payments, for example.
What he
Why do
has?
Yeah, there
orphans get
was
social security?
Yeah. Whoa.
because it's a support for their parents who their parents were
If
getting
you're an
social
orphan,
security.
how are you getting support from your parents?
I think
Well,
it's from their
it's
social
because
security account of
it's
their
their
parents.
the social security account of their parents is going to the kids now.
Oh.
So like their parents died when they had and their parents were on social security, and so now essentially you have like orphans not getting their parents what their parents were getting before. So it's like he's doing a lot of things really chaotically, and it's not working in his favor, in my opinion, because it's just making him look like a careless asshole in a lot of ways.
Well, I
I
think
don't
that's
know
mainly
about
the
the
narrative
the
that they're
orphan
trying to
shit.
paint than anything else because they're so determined. And it's the so much of our narratives today, they're manufacturing consent, and when people are emotionally inflamed, it's very easily for everybody to get into a post hoc rationalization where basically they've already made
Yes.
up their mind that, oh right, this is a bad person, I'm just gonna go look for the evidence. So anytime you put anything in front of them that matches that narrative and the way they're trying to see
Yeah,
reality,
yeah.
it just confirms them and then they
Well,
double down.
my issue is I haven't seen anything that points to him being a good person in any way.
I think he's just like a tech billionaire, and I don't tend to trust billionaires in general.
Yeah.
So it's more of a class consciousness thing for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I tend to think that the tech people they're pushing for this like technocratic future that I don't really agree with, you know, like
Yeah.
so I guess like here's what I'll say about Elon. I think like Elon is actually really good at like organizing people to do things. I think as long as he's not given too much power, but is aimed in the right direction, he's a useful tool. But I think that what's interesting is he
Yeah.
bought X, right? And X is actually
Yeah.
good. I like X a lot. But after the narrative control of the major media like broke, you know, and was no longer working, X tried to like do that itself. It like had like certain accounts that were trying to like set narratives and push them. And after the narrative control broke, like when they tried to reset it, it did not work. And the narrative control is no longer, there is no narrative
Well,
control, basically.
my issue with X is that they said they were bringing back, that they said they were legalizing comedy, and yet my account is permabanned because of a joke about Henry Kissinger.
Wow.
Did you say you wanted to grape his grandmother or something? What did you say?
No,
Great
no,
grandmother.
I said I wish Henry Kissinger a very positive COVID-19 case.
What? That is wild that they. Oh, yeah,
that's fucked up that they gave you that.
That's actually funny and not
Yeah.
that fucking extreme. So
There have been various issues with the way Elon's been running things with certain enforcement. Because the thing is that there's still people there and people are fallible, and that's the thing is, you know,
Yeah.
and different people there. Basically, there's been a couple instances of things going on that were just kind of like obvious. Like somebody got into a fight with Elon, and then all of a sudden their account got fucking. They lost their valid.
Yeah, but
their
that's
verification.
he's just being a petty bitch in that point.
Yeah,
I will say,
mean,
like,
it is it's his, right? So I mean, it's
sure,
like
yeah,
he owns it, so I can do whatever I want. It's that kind
yeah,
of feeling.
which is
It's kind of
pathetic.
like when I
That's
booted
pathetic.
Tremin, right? I
Yeah,
own
yeah, exactly.
ASO, so I'm able to like boot Tremin.
Yeah.
Many people still like Tremin.
To be fair, the other thing that might like I don't know like why the problem I have with X right now is that there's so much disinformation that is so easy to spread on that site, because nowadays you can make an AI video that looks real and just post it on X and be like, this actually happened, guys.
That's why
And people will
discernment
take it
is so
seriously.
important, though, and that's kind of up to you a little bit, right? Discernment is the ability to tell truth
the
from
problem.
lies.
We don't really teach people discernment as children. I think we should really focus more on teaching kids how to tell whether they're reading something that's completely full of shit or whether what they're reading is credible.
Real.
But when you have kids sent to a government school run by a government who's trying to control and manipulate its population, they're not going to give you those type of skills. They're going to give you the type of skills of obedience and following the rules and showing up on time.
Yeah, but that's the parents' job then, is to teach, to be like, hey, like
I get
know
that.
No, I get what you're saying though, yeah. But
I'm just, that's the reason why most people weren't taught, and it's also the way that they've pushed and eroded. Because if parents are stressed out about trying to get to work and trying to get food on the table, they don't have time to teach those lessons either.
Yeah, but if you're gonna have kids, at least make a little time for them. But yeah, okay.
All I'm saying is that all I'm pointing is out the external factors.
No, I get it. I get it. And I will say,
can I just say about everything all at once?
Can I just say about Elon Musk, like, because you mentioned earlier, it's like, I don't think he has to prove that he's a good guy. I think the bar should be, is he a bad guy? Because, like, I don't think any of us have to prove that we're a good person. We can just be fucking neutral. We can live our lives. Everyone disagrees. You're always going to have haters regardless of what you do. But, like, if you're actively making things worse, you're being a piece of shit, you're being you're fucking with people, you're making things harder for people, etc. Sure, that's different. But like, I don't think he has to prove that he's a good guy. I think he needs to just not be a
At
bad
the 11?
Yeah. And like, what's the 11 mean?
Oh, this is
11 of
I
wands,
pulled a
right?
card for Elon Musk. It's the
Oh.
impression card, the 10 of
The
wands.
oppression
10, okay.
card.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna
fuck, that just
pull-
goes against everything I said.
I'm gonna pull a card.
Are we pulling our
I'm gonna
decks
pull
out?
a card for the
We're
rat
pulling our
our
too.
decks out?
Pulling our decks out.
Yeah.
All right,
Pulling our
let's pull your decks out.
All right,
Harambe!
fine. It's on the table.
Decks out for Harambe, guys.
Yes. What you got? What do you got? What do you got? Let's go.
All right, let's see. I got 8 of Swords.
Oh,
Let me see it.
what does that mean? Oh,
Pull
you
it up, put it up
died.
to the camera, dude.
There we go. 8 of Swords.
Ah,
The girl tied up with the crow watching. That's a kinky crow. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Kinky Crow.
And
So
then on the
for-
bottom
for
of the
those
deck
of
was
us who
the Ace
don't
of
have
Wands.
everything memorized
Oh.
in these departments,
Okay, so 10 of
that was
wands.
the 7 of swords.
8 of swords. The 10 of wands is 10 of wands is the 8 of swords. So the 10 of wands is about like trying to control energy, right? So it's Saturn in Sagittarius is trying to control what comes out, and honestly buying like an entire social media site, that makes sense. Like you're trying to control messaging. I don't think he's
Yeah.
very effective at it, and I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Responsibilities, burdens, strength. The 10 of 1 indicates that you're a burden with social, domestic, or career-related responsibilities.
Hmm.
You will be taken up a lot, perhaps too much.
well, I
Next
mean,
card
he is
signifies
like
an ending
sleeping
and a
on the
final
floor
push.
and like the fucking. He is not like. He's not able to like put any work into all these businesses that he has because he's trying to do the Doge thing. I could see that
Yeah.
as being like he's probably feeling oppressed, like they're burning down his cars, and he's like, "Fuck
Yeah.
my stock," you know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. People are losing their minds,
that,
and
but
like
it's
all the
and
environmentalists
and
are burning
there's-
all those
there's a
cars
part-
and letting all those fumes into the air. You know what I'm saying?
There's a
Not
part
very
of me.
environmentalist.
There's a part of me that almost feels bad for him. Like on a
I
human
feel bad for him. He's
level.
a cancer, man.
He's a
He's a
human.
real cancer. Poor cancers.
But what I mean is like just as like sort of it was sort of like when I saw like the first Biden and Trump debate when Trump said that Biden's son was a loser, and I just remember seeing Biden posted on X, Bo Biden was not a loser with like an ellipse after it. And I just thought, like, I felt really bad for him because it's like the dude just got told that his dead son was a loser to his face.
Well, he was
like,
talking about
I
Hunter.
just
I'm
felt
pretty
bad for him
sure.
as like no, he was talking about Bo, the dead guy.
Was Bo a loser though?
Well, he died of cancer.
Loser.
Well, he lost one battle.
What
but
a
that doesn't mean he's
loser.
a loser. Yeah.
But like,
He lost one
what
battle,
I'm getting
though.
at is like, it was like a human moment to see like Biden, because I hated Biden too. Like I almost threw up voting for him. Like, so like my
So
issue
it's your
was
fault. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Sorry, go ahead.
What?
He caused that
Yeah.
water leak.
If I
He
voted
caused
for
that
the other
water
guy.
leak. Doesn't make him
But-
stop counting ballots. It
but,
was
like,
all Tim.
It's just a human.
In the
it's
nick
just
of
a
Tim.
Human moment. Yes, I voted. I was all 78 million Joe Biden votes in 2020. You got
It was quite a few. It was like a crazy number compared to like the historical numbers
Yeah.
from Dems.
Yeah.
Well, they were.
What if, Tim, what if you found out without a shadow of a doubt that the 2020 election was bullshit and that there was a bunch of bullshit votes and it was like, it was proved to you, what would you do?
Good question.
I would be like, yeah, I was wrong.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I got nothing. Yeah.
Well,
That's a
King
good
of
way to go.
Cups.
Yeah, I know.
King of Cups. I pulled
Oh,
out
okay.
King of Cups
Yeah,
as he asked that question. So calm
Yeah.
emotional balance. The king represents full control of one's emotion, an ability to balance them with logic and indicate someone
Fuck.
who is mature and diplomatic.
He
How
is a
about take that as
Pisces.
a
Oh,
I mean, we
Tim.
gotta
take that
give
as a card right there.
Dude, Tim.
That's
Okay,
for
respect.
you, Tim.
You know what?
we gotta
Respect.
give Tim a little bit of credit.
Everybody,
He is a
everybody, take a
Pisces.
sip to the King of Cups.
Yeah, I respect that.
okay.
I respect.
Um,
And
even
yeah.
though Pisces are ancient, haggard souls,
Hey,
just
look. I mean, he looks
just ancient, just
just the
have been
oldest,
through it all,
the most
gone through
old.
the cycle a lot of times, like real stuck in samsara, type motherfuckers. Even
Oh,
though
Samsara.
we do love them, we do love
Yeah.
Pisces, we do love them, even though they're haggard.
oh.
You are haggard
Did-
souls.
Did you
know
mention
right?
that he was haggard? Because you should mention that he was haggard because you said that word like 10 times. Haggard? Is he haggard? Because
Yeah,
apparently,
Haggard
Well,
episode.
just don't
Last
say
time
the
was
word
contention
contention
episode.
because
This
we'll
is
lose
Haggard.
Yeah.
our audience.
Hagrid. You're
Oh
Hagrid.
no! Oh no! Oh no!
He ran away. Mike ran away. Let's all talk shit about Mike. Go.
Emma Moiser told me that she's watching this just because of me. So there's that.
Oh, fuck yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Who?
Thanks
Who
for
again?
watching this far, Emma.
Who? Emma.
Yeah, thanks for watching this far, Emma.
Mauser,
Yeah.
like the gun.
Hey,
It's actually
Emma.
pronounced Moiser.
Moser. Okay.
I don't
Moiser,
know.
like Moyzer would be how it was pronounced.
Oh.
To be honest,
Moser.
most of the time in chat, I
Yeah.
don't even read their names. I just respond to whatever's funny.
But yeah, like so I figured that I would give her a shout out since she specifically mentioned that she was watching this because of
Yeah.
me.
Well, fucking
So-
let's shout out
that's
Emma.
sweet.
Everyone shout out Emma.
That's sweet.
Emma.
Well,
Emma.
everybody else who's
Emma,
watching, go and
Emma.
punch God in the face for Emma. So.
Emma. 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 All right. There we go.
Oh no, but
You like
but-
Talk
Benjamin
shit
Sisko
about
and punch
Pisces,
Q in
get
the
kicked off
face.
the call. What are you gonna do?
Seriously, she's like one of the only other people in the group who matches my energy in that particular way with like the whole being chassed out of nowhere thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. Like every time she does something chaotic like that, I'm like,
Son of a
Well,
bitch.
have you seen cows graze?
I'm like,
They will just go in just complete random directions and be like a screensaver moving around a field.
Oh
When-
yeah.
When you only have like one of them there,
There's
yeah,
something calming
they're
about
complete. They're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's just like it's an adventure for them. It's just like the
Yeah.
grass is always greener on the same pasture that you're in
that. Yeah.
because you just keep moseying around it.
Yeah.
As soon as I called Pisces haggard souls, my phone died. So, that
So-
was a mistake.
No, that's called karmic retribution. Hello,
I
Amber.
guess so. I mean, the Pisces are good at that.
Hello,
part.
Amber.
Nick, Nick, you're also a Pisces. Is that what?
No, I'm an
Or-
Aquarius, my
You're
guy.
Aquarius.
Also,
also a
haggard
water
souls.
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got
Aquarius, Sun,
Aries,
Pisces, Venus.
Aries, a Libra, an Aquarius, and a Pisces. That's quite a diverse set
Oh, yeah.
of sun signs we've got in this.
Oh yeah.
We
Do
got the
any of
beginning,
us-
the middle, and the end.
Yep. So we got. Do we even have any? So my big three is Pisces, Taurus, Scorpio. So yours is what? Libra, Scorpio, Aries, Michael.
Libra, Aries rising, Libra sun, Scorpio moon. Yeah.
Yeah. So do we have Taurus, Scorpio, Libra? What's Troy's moon?
I'm Leo,
Leo.
Moon, Cap Rising.
Leo. Okay, so we all got different sun and moon signs. I'm a Scorpio rising. Michael's an Aries rising. I don't remember the other two of you. So we've got none of us have the same corresponding signs in our big threes, which is interesting.
I mean,
Yeah,
Unless
we like
unless-
intellectual and sign diversity here.
Yes.
Yes,
but not
exactly,
pigment
exactly.
diversity.
I
But
think
no,
I'm towards the end of the night for me. It has been a great show, though. I feel like we've
It's
done a
been
lot.
fantastic.
Is there anything else that we
Yeah,
need to cover before we close?
No, I don't really have anything much else to talk about. I just wanted to make sure that I could get that shout out in at the very end of the
Nice.
podcast. So.
Respect.
Sorry, I talked shit about Pisces, Tim. It was a joke, but
You're not
obviously the
sorry.
universe decided to
You
punish me
can't
for it.
decide
So.
whether you're sorry or not, Libra.
I can.
I got you
can.
back. What? Oh,
Can.
that was good. That was good. That was quick. Oh, come on, Mike. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It was a great show, guys. I feel like
nice job.
almost all the women in
glad I did
ASO will hate it, but I think that we did well, and the men in ASO will appreciate it. And some of the politically inclined women, so like 2% of the women will like it. So if they get to this point and they complain about it, we know that they watched it the whole way through. I can't
Perfect.
believe what Michael said about women at the very end of that. That was rude, you know?
That's wild.
Well, and the card I pulled to end is security conservation, the Four of Pentacles.
Four of Discs. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we're all
And I put
conservatives
the
now.
King of Cups at the very end. So
sorry.
So the eights.
You now by association, you are now a conservative. Sorry.
Hold on to your money, man.
Don't make the rules.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
you've been associated with us.
Good night,
So.
bros. It's been a pleasure.
I'm canceled by the entire left now. All right. I'll talk to you guys
Tim.
later.
Thank you, Tim, for joining us. Yeah.
See you later.
No problem.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers, brother.
Bye.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace.